Welcome back, Mo-Nanians. This is Mo-NaN the Conqueror here, doing another video. This is gonna be part of the My Thoughts series, and I might as well get it started. Today, My Thoughts is going to be about a little bit more about my background and the shit I've been through and all that stuff. I know I mentioned in my first video that I have borderline personality disorder, depression really bad, multiple suicide attempts, Jesus Christ, and a whole bunch of other slew of just fucked up things. But I'm gonna explain like my life a little bit. Okay, basically, I grew up. I was born in Chicago, well, Evanston. Was raised in Minnesota. Been here basically my whole life. Growing up was really difficult for me because I was more of a sensitive kid. I wasn't like a sports child. I really didn't play sports like that at all, to be completely honest. I could pass gym. If any of you niggas failed at gym, kill yourself. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't understand. How can you fail gym? Unless you have a physical disability, like seriously, I don't give a fuck how big, skinny, it don't matter. Gym should be the easiest. It shocks the hell out of me for even all the nerds who sit here and they do they can do everything else, but they can't seem to do gym. How am I the one who used to boss at gym? I have never failed gym in my life. I don't know how any kid could. That was the best class ever in school. Period. Who wanted to do math? Who really wanted to do science? Nobody did. Even nerds didn't want to do that shit. Let's just be real here. Nobody really wanted to care. Gym was easy, okay? But I was just a normal kid. I never really had friends growing up at all, to be completely honest. I know it's hard to believe because you know how kids are. Most people have friends in elementary school and middle school. No. I didn't have really friends. I had people I hung out with, but I grew up going to a boys and girls club for years, but friends? Real friends? Like, the life of Pablo, real friends? Hell no. I've never had real friends growing up. There was only been a few, but then shit kind of took a left turn. It didn't have nothing to do with me, but yeah. So I've had those type of issues for a long time. I was a nerd. I was a geek. I love comic books, animes. I've never played with a Barbie in my life. Action figures, nigga. I love me some action figures. I had all the X-Men. I had the Power Rangers. I used to come up with my own stories for them. I used to come up with really cool fight scenes. Like, I love that shit because I grew up on kung fu movies, so that kind of all just collaborated. And my dad was that type of person. He's a computer technician. He's a nerd. He was always those type of things. So I kind of had that from him. Now, growing up, my dad was there, but he wasn't exactly there. But he called me damn near every week. More than that, probably. I would see him in Chicago probably. I did like probably every year since I was 10, and then when I turned 10, that's when shit kind of stopped. But other than that, like, I've had the type of life that a lot of people probably have, who is considered an outcast or someone who isn't a conqueror, as I would say it. I was physically and emotionally abused for a long time. My younger brother's father, my stepdad, basically, he was always physically, emotionally abusive. I was forced to play sports. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I was forced to play sports, basically. I was forced to play sports. I was forced to go outside, which I usually did, but I was a nerd, so a lot of the time I would stay inside because that's just always been me. And me going out in public was just not something I wanted to do. I would get beat up and jumped like every day. There was not I can only remember a few days where I was actually be able to run and get away. I've been jumped multiple times in my own neighborhood. Never really had many people protecting me from shit like that, but people were like, well, you're gonna have to learn how to fight. But it was just like, I've never done that before. And I have an anger problem, like a very bad anger problem because of the shit I went through. So instead of me actually like, being able to, fight and defend myself, I would completely snap and I'd end up, yes, I'm hitting you with bricks, I'm tossing rocks, I'm grabbing a weapon, and I'm finna crack, and I've done that a few times. I remember in elementary school, this girl would not leave me alone, And all I remember was I completely flipped out and I hit that bitch with a hockey stick. All I did was just kept fuck. I just literally damn near beat the living shit out of that girl because of that. And it's just because I was always beaten up mentally and physically. So I never knew how to really express my emotions properly. And it took me damn near till I was in my 20s for me to really get a grip on that. Because, you know, a lot of people have people they grow up with that, you know, they have their coaches or a parent that actually really pushes them and stuff like that. I did, but with them physically not being with me or near me or taking me away from that, all I knew was misery. My stepdad used to, instead of, like, I always thought I was a bad kid. And I figured out that it wasn't me being a bad kid, it's me because I was sensitive. I was a very emotional kid. I'm a Pisces, first of all, so I'm emotional as fuck. And being bullied and beat up all the fucking time from elementary school up to high school, you would understand somebody who is not mentally capable of keeping shit together or even having a honest conversation with somebody or anything of that sort. So there are situations like that that bother the fuck out of me. And for years, it took me a long time to really find out who I was. I went through multiple identity crises. Didn't know where I fit in. Me being bullied by a lot of the times it was all types of kids, but a lot of the people who used to bully me were my own people, were black people. And it took, and because of that, it kept me being away from black people because of the fact that I'm supposed to love y'all and have your back, but y'all were the main people who used to fuck with me and bully me and treated me like garbage. So I took the other route and hung out with everybody else who was not black. There were a few, but because they had a lot more of interest than I did, and that's the difference. People like to bully the weak. That's what people want to do because they're weak inside themselves. So if you have to bully somebody, you're weak emotionally also. Because I feel like that's just a waste of time for everybody. Like, pick on somebody that you can't fight. Pick on somebody that probably will hurt you. You won't do that. You have to pick on the weak. That's exactly what people do. They pick on the weak. So I had to deal with that for a long time. Getting beat up. I've had people shoot at me. I've had people throw knives at. I've had people steal from me. I've had people take knives from me. I used to be followed home. I would get beat up from the time I woke up early in the morning for me and my little brother get on the school bus to the time I got off. All through school, bus, and I was just a nice kid. I never would ever, try to do that. And then when I would try to protect a younger kid who used to get bullied in middle school, like they would beat me up because I knew how it felt. And I just couldn't see somebody getting beat up like that. And I think that was the one time I did it, but I think after that, they just ripped into me. There was nothing I could do. I had some friends, but it still was difficult for me to live this type of life and feel like I could be accepted or become somebody. You know how everybody sits here and like they have some type of goal, something they can strive for, something that they want to do. It took me forever. I still don't know. But YouTube is something that I've always been interested in, and I feel like the more I do this, it might actually help me in the long run, especially for the business that I want to do and the things I want to do. So it's been difficult. I can't sit here and say it's not. I can't sit here and say that everything that I want is perfect. It's, or that I'm a perfect person. I'm a work in progress like everybody else, and I've always been. I'm like he flawless led. The reason he says flawless is because he says he is flawed in some way, and I'm very much flawed. So dealing with all that has been taking a toll, and being an adult dealing with that is even worse. I've had probably over 30 jobs, I could say, and I'm just guesstimating here since I was 18 years old. I didn't know how to talk to people. I wouldn't look people in the face. I would only leave at certain times. I would only move a certain way. Half the time I didn't leave the house. As a kid, I used to run away a lot. I just couldn't deal with the crap that I dealt with. And then as time went on, shit just got worse. Shit just got completely worse. Being physically, emotionally abused to being physically, emotionally abused by other kids, my own culture, having identity crisis, being accused of molestation and rape, um, like having people destroy my reputation, have people just completely, basically, I feel like people wanted me to kill myself. I feel like people were pushing me to that point, and when I actually attempted, that's when shit got serious. And it took for my mom to fully understand, like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. Now I understand, but it still didn't help because I was still going through it as when I was 18, 19, 20. I was still getting fucked over. I was still being considered an outcast, a garbage person, just anything. And me coming out of the closet made it even worse because I got bullied by those kids too. I got bullied by the other gay kids because I wasn't one of them. I wasn't super feminine, but I wasn't super masculine. I was more of a nerd than anything. Like, I wasn't this type of kid who want to go out and party, hang out with thugs and all these little faggot ass dudes. That wasn't me. I only did that because that's all I knew. And that put me through another identity crisis, and I've gotten stolen, beat up, stabbed, and all this other stuff. I have been date raped before. I have been raped before at the age of 14, and the date rape was at 16, and that was a gang rape actually. And so I've been through a lot of hardships. I've been through a lot of sadness, depression, anger, violence. And it takes a lot for somebody to admit that there's a lot that's going on, and it takes a lot for somebody to admit that they're not shit. And me even doing this, I already know I'm gonna hear like the worst things from people's comments and how people feel, but this is my life, and this is the only one I have. And I might as well speak to try to help people who felt like they weren't fitting in somewhere to actually feel like there are other people who can totally agree on how you feel, who really knows. And that's all I really wanted to say. Part 2 will probably be coming here in the next few days. Thank you guys.